Hey there, Guntown Mike here. Now, some of you have asked me to do a playthrough for Panic Stations, the card game version of Pandora Celeste, and that's what I'm here to do today because you ask, I give it to you if I possibly can. Now, Panic Stations is a cut down version of the core game, the main game, played out on a map of playing cards laid out in the middle of the table. And as such, it's faster and more streamlined, but it's not as sophisticated as the core game. I think the best way of describing it is if Pandora Celeste is the full throated movie with a three-act structure, character progression, plot twists that builds to a satisfying climax, then Panic Stations is the high octane chase sequence you get in all the trailers. And because it's a cut down version, it also only has four members of the crew: Flygirl, your kick ass heroine; Skins, the company android; Cargo, the ship's resident techno geek; and Cap, who's a grizzled veteran. And these come in the card game with punchboard standees, though of course, if you've got the main game, you could always swap out the punchboard standees for the nice acrylic standees instead. And on that note, the game is specifically designed so that you can port any of the 12 characters that you can get in Pandora Celeste into the card game by taking their deck of 9 cards and selecting 7 of those cards to play in the card game. I suggest you don't choose Climb because the vents are not a feature in the card game. I did tell you it was a cut down version. But apart from that, you can basically use any character that you have got in the core game in the card game as well. At the start of the game, you decide what crew you want to play, and I'm going to take Cargo because I want to show you how his cargo card works. And once you've picked your crew, you're ready to set up the game, and the way you do this is you lay out the ship deck. Now, the ship deck is a deck of 19 cards labelled 1 to 19, though the card labelled here that doesn't have a big number on the front. And it is different from the crew decks because the ship deck has arrows on the back of the cards, and the crew deck doesn't. You also have 7 locations in the game: the bridge, the galley, the sick bay, cryo chamber, computer room, cargo control, and the cargo shuttle. And the computer room also comes with 3 cards that are stored in the computer room safe. And finally, you also have 3 big nasty cards. These are the classic 3 big nasties from the core game. And I have to say that unlike the crew, not all big nasties from the core game will work within the card game, though many of them will, and you'll just have to figure out which ones work and which ones don't if you want to mix and match. As it is, you basically shuffle the 3 big nasties, lay them out randomly in front of you like so, and then having shuffled the ship deck, you set aside 1 card for every player in the game into a starting deck, and you then deal the remaining cards one at a time on top of the big nasties in order to create 3 approximately even piles. And having dealt all of these cards out, you then pile one pile on top of the other, with the pile with the most cards on the top and the pile with the least cards on the bottom. And finally, you put the starting deck on top of that, and this is your ship deck for the game. From this ship deck, you now need to lay out the plan of the ship. And you do that by placing ship deck cards in a crossroads on the center of the table, like so, and then arranging the location cards around that crossroads in the configuration shown on the setup diagram in the leaflet that comes with the game. The computer room is also separated from the ship by a locked door token, and the cargo shuttle and bridge are also separated from the ship by airlock tokens, which are laid with their engineering side face up at the start of the game. There are 4 other decks that come in the box, though to be honest with you, deck is a generous description for some of them. The first is 2 cards, told you deck was a generous description, which are the Scuttlebug cards. You set these off to one side in what's known as the Swarm deck, and they will appear if the bug pods ever appear in the ship. What? There are bug pods in the ship? Come on, this is a spaceship survival game. You also have a combat deck, which looks like this on the back and has cards that look like this on the front. You basically shuffle this deck and set it to one side where everyone can basically reach it when they need to. And you also have 3 spare noise cards, which you will need at some point. I'll explain why. And finally, you have an agenda deck. This is a deck of 6 cards which you shuffle and you deal 1 to each player in the game. If Skins is in the game, you deal him 2, and if he gets a company agenda, he has to take the company agenda, which is why no one ever trusts the company android. And these are basically pick up and deliver cards. You need to find the MacGuffin described on this card, take it into your hand, declare that you have fulfilled your agenda, and once you've fulfilled your agenda, you have the access codes to unlock the airlocks at either end of the front of the ship, and at that point you can get onto the escape vehicles and escape. Finally, you place your crew standee into the cryo chamber and you're ready to play the game. And at the heart of this game is your 7-card deck, which also forms your hand. And you're going to take it in turns, going around the table, playing 1 card at a time to do what the action symbols say on the card. And those action symbols are described in the symbols quick reference sheet that comes with the game. If the symbols are in separate boxes, you can do one of those actions or the other. You can't do both. If the symbols are in the same box, you can do all of the actions in that box in whatever order you like, and you don't have to do all of the actions. So in this particular case, you could pick up and creep, or you could creep and pick up, or you could just creep. It's entirely up to you. If you've got dual symbols in 2 different boxes, you pick which pair of symbols you're going to use, and everybody has this, which is a batteries card. When you play this, you play it face up into your discard to take 2 cards from your discard pile and immediately play one of the 2 cards that you have picked up. And it's a way of basically getting the action you need out of your discard pile at a point where you need it. And on that note, I guarantee you that at some point during this game, there will be something you want to do and you do not have the action icon to do it, at which point you can always play 2 cards face down into your discard pile to do anything that is on the symbols quick reference sheet. You look at the color coding of the thing that you want to do, and you take a spare noise card of the same color and you place it on top of those 2 cards to say that those 2 cards are making that noise. And the reason that you do this is that we are going to come to a point where the nasties are going to have a nasty action round. The nasties are the alien monsters in this game. When the nasties have a nasty action round, you are basically going to look at all of the face-up cards in your discard pile. Face-up discard pile cards make noise. And whoever has the most red noise cards in their discard pile is the first target that the nasties are going to zero in on. But we'll get to that in a little while. First of all, you need to start moving through the ship. And in order to do that, you play a movement card. Every card that has a horizontal arrow on it is a movement card. And the number of arrowheads on that horizontal arrow is the number of cards that you can move across through the ship. So this is a run 3 card. If I played it for movement, I would play it face up into my discard pile like so, and I would start moving. Now, I can only move from one card to another across the narrow end of a card. So I can go from the cryo chamber into the bottom of the crossroads here, and I can go from the bottom of the crossroads into the center of the crossroads like so, because I'm crossing the narrow ends of cards. I could not go from the cryo chamber into the right hand crossroads, nor could I go from the bottom of the crossroads into the sick bay, because I would be crossing long ends of cards. And each of the ship cards, on the back of each of the ship cards, is a set of arrows, which just reminds you that those are the viable crossing points. I can go from the crossroads into this card or into this card because there is a narrow end of another card that I am crossing. So I just move on through. Every time I enter a face down room, I flip over the card to see what it is. At this point, I can opt to stop or keep on moving, depending on what I've discovered. And in this case, this is a stun gun, which looks quite useful to me. So I want to stop so that I can pick it up on a later turn. Now, if I was playing with more than one player here, then at this point, I might want to pick that card up before someone else has their turn. What I can therefore do is make a follow-on action. And a follow-on action means that I play any card face down to say that I'm following on, and then I can play another card from my hand face up. In this case, I'm going to play Pick Up and Creep, which allows me to pick up that card and creep out of the room into another room. I replace the card that I've picked up with a card from the top of the ship deck, and it goes face down into the room that I've just emptied. If I've entered a new room, which I have, I turn over that card, I see what that card does. In this case, that card is a Hear That card, which allows me to take a peek at the top card of the deck and then put it back on the top or the bottom of the deck, and then I put this on the bottom of the deck. So this goes on the bottom of the deck. I take a peek at the top of the deck, which is a medkit, very, very nice, and I'm going to keep it on the top of the deck because I want that medkit to be available. And that medkit is basically going to go there to fill that empty slot. But by doing that, I have revealed a big nasty on the top of the ship deck. And because I've revealed a big nasty on the top of the ship deck, that is going to trigger a nasty action round at the end of my turn. So what I do then is I take this big nasty card and I am going to spawn this big nasty somewhere on the ship. I draw the top card of the combat deck and I look at the card and I look at the name that's on the card. In this case, it says cryo for cryo chamber. So this big nasty has spawned in the cryo chamber. Emerging from behind one of the cryopods is a giant monster bug. This monster bug is now going to have a nasty action round. When a nasty action round happens, you activate a number of nasties equal to the number of crew in the game, unless you're playing solo, at which point you activate 2 nasties. You also have this little token, which is the active player marker, which basically you pass around the table as each person takes their turn. And at the top of the active player marker, there is a little symbol which basically tells you whether it's a little nasty action round or a big nasty action round. If it's a little nasty action round, then you activate nasties from the smallest to the biggest. And in this case, I would only activate the first 2. If it's a big nasty action round, you activate the nearest big nasty to the first target, and then the second nearest big nasty to the first target, and you only start activating little nasties if you run out of big nasties. As it is, I only have 1 active nasty in the game at the moment, which is the monster bug. So that monster bug is going to come after me. How does it operate? Well, we look on the back of the rules booklet that comes with the game at the Xeno data log, and we look for the monster bug in the Xeno data log, and it basically says that it's going to move 5 towards the first target and attack the first non-bug that it encounters, and that we're going to reduce the monster bug's combat by 2 for every room it passes through to reach its target. So the monster bug is basically going to move 1, 2 to get to me, which means that it's attacking me with a combat of -4, and the monster bug's combat is its hits. But before I fight the monster bug, I've got a stun gun. And I can play this stun gun before a fight to try and stun the thing that's attacking me so that it doesn't attack me. The only problem is I've got to flip a card, and if I score anything but a 4, it's going to not stun the monster bug, because the monster bug is a big nasty, and big nasties are only stunned by a 4. So I've got a very, very small chance of this working. Usually what I would do is, because it's a tool, I would play it into my discard pile like so to use the tool. But because I am cargo, I can play my special use tool card. And I can play that card to use the tool without discarding it. So I can use the stun gun and still keep it in my hand for later, which is not necessarily a bad idea. So I now flip a card. Yeah, I scored 0. That is not enough to stun a big nasty, and so the monster bug is going to attack me. And as I say, it's got 8 hits, which means it's got a combat of 8. Its special ability is it's going to reduce my combat by 1. So it's also reducing its combat by 2 for every room it moves through. So it's 8, 6, 4. It's attacking me for 4 plus up to 4 from the combat deck. At this point, I have a choice. I can either fight or I can flight. If I fight, I have to play cards from my hand that have fist icons or dodge icons. And I can also play any weapon from my hand that gives me plus combat. If I play flight, I can play cards from my hand that have movement icons on them, and every movement arrow gives me +1 combat, plus every card I play gives me another +1 combat, plus dodge gives me +3 combat. Well, to be perfectly frank, I have no fight cards in my hand at the moment, so I'm probably going to try and run away. I'm going to play flight. It's currently got 4 plus a potential another 4, that's 8. I now start playing cards from my hand to try to beat 8. I can play this card here, which gives me 1, 2 plus the card 3 combat. I can play this card here, which gives me 1, 2 plus the card another 3 combat, that's 6. But it's still, I've got a potential of 8 that I've got to beat. But what I also have in my hand is this card, my batteries card. So I can play my batteries card to draw any 2 cards from my discard that have not already been played into the combat, and play any of them into the combat. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw back my pick up and creep card, and I'm also going to draw back my fight or flight card, and I'm choosing flight, so I'm playing that for another 3 movement arrows, +1 for the card is 4, so that's 4, 7, 10. I flip the nasty action card. He scored 4 plus 2 is 6. 10 beats 6. So I have managed to run away. I flee into another room without being hit by this nasty. When I go into that other room, I immediately turn over the card for that other room. Oh joy, I've just exposed a bunch of bug pods sitting right in front of the computer room. Those bug pods do not do anything when I enter the room, because the way these films work, whatever is nasty is in the room never reacts when you enter a room. It's only when you try and leave the room and make some noise that it attacks you, but we'll get to that in a minute. So that is at the end of my combat round. The final thing I do is I look at the combat card that was drawn, and I take a look at the number on the top of the card. the recovery number. That recovery number is 2, and that allows me to recover the bottom 2 cards of my discard pile. Okay. I am currently standing in a room full of bug pods, having just run away from something big and nasty. So I'm a little out of breath, and I'm down to half my cards. It would be a good idea right now if I passed to take a rest, which would allow me to draw my cards back into my hand. But when you pass, that triggers another nasty action round, usually. There are 3 ways of triggering a nasty action round. One is by revealing a big nasty at the top of the ship deck. The other is by passing. And the third is by playing a you first card, which makes any crew member you play it on the first target and immediately triggers a nasty action round with them as the first target. Ooh, nasty. So passing can be a problem. However, the rules state that you can never have more than 1 nasty action round in a row. So because we've just had a nasty action round, I can pass now and ignore the nasty action round that would trigger. And when I pass, I'm allowed to draw back into my hand a number of cards that make my hand size back up to 7. So I can draw back any 3 cards from my discard pile. Now I have a decent hand size of cards to play with, and I can start doing other things. And the first thing that I need to do here is I need to unlock that door. And to unlock a door, I basically have to play an unlock action, which I have just done. This unlock action says unlock and move. I unlock this door, and in the card game, I basically place that lock onto the ship's safe. So the door to the computer room is now permanently open, unlocked, but the ship safe is still locked. If I move out of this room, then I am going to trigger those bug pods. And those bug pods are going to spawn one of these scuttlebugs in their room. I don't want to trigger those bug pods, so I need to creep out of that room. But that would involve me playing another card, and I don't want to do a follow-on action, so I want to end my turn here so I can then play the creep card as a separate turn. Because I've ended my turn without revealing any new cards, without turning a card over on the ship or anything else, I have to draw the top card of the ship deck, and I have to place it in the room that I ended my turn in. And I have revealed a coffee bulb, which would be quite useful to me. So now I'm on to the next turn, and at this point I can play a pick up and creep card, and that pick up and creep card allows me to pick up the coffee bulb and creep out of the room. And because I have crept out of the room, making very little noise, I do not trigger the bug pods. They do not spawn a scuttlebug. Once again, at this point, I end my turn, and because I've ended my turn, I must draw another card, and all of the traumas so far have basically triggered a memory in my brain of my combat training, how to move and fight. And if I wanted to play a pickup action, I could pick that up and take it into my hand. You will notice that because you can pick cards up and take them into your hand size can be larger than 7 until you pass, at which point you basically are drawing back up to 7 cards unless you've already got more than 7 cards in your hand. But there isn't really a hand limit, there's just a replenish limit when you pass. I'm now at the ship's safe, and I want to unlock the ship's safe. I do not have an unlock action in my hand, so I play my batteries card to take back my unlock card and my creep card, and I play my unlock card to basically unlock the safe like so. And once again, because I haven't revealed any more cards, I reveal another card, and I have revealed somewhere within the computer room a smoking gun, evidence that the company is up to no good. But to be honest with you, I'm not interested in smoking guns because, frankly, I'm just a thief. I want to get off of this ship with the cash box, which is why I've headed to the ship safe. So, at this point, I play pick up and creep, and I choose the cash box. And I could creep back out of that room. But you know what? I'm not going to because I want that pistol. So I'm going to pass again. I still want to pick up that pistol, but I no longer have my pickup card in my hand, and I also don't have my batteries card in my hand. But here's a little trick. I can play any two cards I like face down to do the pickup action. The one card I was not allowed to discard is this because it's got a hand clogging symbol on it. And you are never allowed to lose or discard any cards with hand cloggers on them. At this point, it's time to get out of Dodge. And I think it's time to start moving rather more quickly. So I'm basically going to play this to go 1, 2 back into this room. Because I have moved through this room, I trigger that nasty, and that nasty triggers a scuttlebug which spawns in the room. The scuttlebug spawns as I leave, so the scuttlebug doesn't attack me. If the scuttlebug had already been in there, it would have attacked me as I left. As it is, it doesn't. And I reveal the card that I have moved on to, which is a med kit. I am now in the room with the monster bug. Well, I don't have much in the way of cards here. I opt to pass. At that point, I can basically draw back up to a hand size of 7. So I can replenish my hand from anywhere in my discard pile with cards that are going to be useful to me. So first things first, get back my batteries card. Then let's take my fight card, which you'll notice was an upside down card, but I'm still allowed to basically take it. And finally, my creep card for later. Okay, let's hope that that was a good set of choices. And because I've passed, spare noise also now goes away. You will notice that the rest of my cards in my discard remain the way they were. And this is the noise that I am now making, if that made any difference because other players were around. As it is, I'm now in a combat with these bugs, and this is the second combat of the game, so big nasties are going to move first. So this monster bug is going to move before the scuttlebug. At which point, I am basically going to play my fight card with a fist, and I'm going to follow that up with the pistol. But instead of discarding the pistol, I'm going to use my tool card to allow me to use the pistol without discarding it. So that gives me a combat of 6 for the pistol, plus 3 for the fist is 9, versus 8 for the monster bug because it's not moving anywhere, -1 because that's the monster bug's special ability, it's armor. So that's 8 versus 8 and a card draw. That's not good. That's really not good. That's so bad, in fact, I'm going to have to change tactics. I don't think I'm going to try fighting this monster bug. Instead, I'm going to run away. So the fist turns into a flight card, which gives me 4. I'm still 4 against 8 at the moment. I have to play my batteries to draw back cards that I haven't yet played into the combat. So I can basically draw back 2 of these, and I will draw that card there and that card there, which gives me another 3, 6 plus 4. That gives me 10. 10 versus 8. This is not great, but frankly, I don't have much of a choice. So I flip a card and ow. It's added 4. 10 versus 12. Not good. The recovery number at the top is 2. So I get to recover 2 cards from the bottom of my discard pile. So these 2 cards come back into my discard pile, but I have just taken 2 hits. 10 minus my combat of 8 is plus 2. It's inflicted 2 hits on me. My cards are my hits. I can opt to lose cards from my hand, or I can opt to lose cards from my discard, and I can lose any cards I like from my discard, which, if any of you have played the core game, you know that it's different in the core game. So yes, obviously, I think the first card I'm going to ditch is You First, because You First basically does nothing for me very much. And then, you know what? I am actually going to lose my Use Tools card. Those 2 cards are gone. I could basically use a med kit to heal back. If I had the med kit, I could go into the sick bay to heal back. But actually, I just want to get out of here. That was the monster bug. The monster bug's attack happens now. 1 more nasty moves. There's only 1 nasty on the ship at the moment, which is this scuttlebug. This scuttlebug comes into this room because it moves 1 towards the first target and then attacks to burrow into whoever it attacks. I really don't want him burrowing into me, because if he burrows into me, he starts eating me from the inside out, 1 card at a time, which is why I held on to the gun, because at this point I basically blow it away with my pistol. I have to reshuffle the combat deck because the card that I just drew had R for reshuffle on it. This little bug has got a combat of 1 plus 2 is 3. 6 beats 3, so I blow away this scuttlebug. If this was a little nasty that had come from the ship deck, it would go face down in the bottom of the ship deck like so. As it is, it's spawned by the bug pods, so it goes back into the spawn deck and it can spawn again at a later date. That is the end of that combat round, and I am allowed to draw back another 2 cards from the bottom of my discard pile. So I've managed to get my combat card and my batteries card back, which is pretty useful. At this point, it is time for me to sneak away. So I am playing Creep to creep out of that room and reveal that card. And I have just revealed yet another nasty. Oh joy. This is a bug. It does not attack me when I enter the room, because, as I said before, the way these movies work, it's currently sniffing at the door or something and hasn't noticed me. I have the option to try to creep past it and delicately enter the codes into this door, which I am going to do. So I have to play batteries in order to get my engineering card back, so I can play the engineering icon, and I can take another card back as well. And actually, I think Sneak is the most useful card for me at the moment, so I will take Sneak, and I will then play the engineering card, to turn this over like so. And I've just discovered that it's going to take a move to action to get onto the bridge through the airlock, because this flips over to a move to icon. Because I did not reveal a card, I reveal another card. There is a multi-tool hanging on the wall somewhere in that corridor. And I am going to use and lose this coffee bulb that I picked up earlier, lose it out of the game to pick up any card I like from my discard pile and play it. And I am going to pick up my batteries card, play my batteries card to get the other two cards into my hand, and I'm then going to play that move 2 in order to move into the bridge. Because I have moved into the bridge and made noise leaving this room, I didn't creep, this bug is now going to go for me as I leave. And I am going to blast it with my, oh no, I'm going to hit it with my stun gun. I forgot I had a stun gun. Yeah, all right. So I'm going to fire at it with my stun gun. And stun gun, flip a card. I basically will stun it on anything but a 4. So 1, 2, 3, stuns little nasties. That stuns that thing. It doesn't attack me because it's stunned. The combat is over. I've got onto the bridge. My turn ends. I have to reveal a card. I reveal this card. It is a spider bug, but it does not go onto the bridge. If you read what the bridge card says, if you draw a card at the end of your turn, flip a combat card and place the drawn card in the room that it names. In other words, this spider bug does not spawn on the bridge. Instead, it spawns in the galley. So it is there. However, that spawning has revealed the next big nasty, which immediately triggers a nasty action round. This big nasty is going to appear in sickbay. That's not good. And it's a trophy hunter. And the trophy hunter will basically target the first target, that is me, and relentlessly hunt down that first target until it has killed me. So that trophy hunter is basically going to creep through these other enemies to get to me in its chameleon suit. Oh joy! We've triggered a nasty action round. This time round, little nasties move, and there are 2 little nasties on the board. So I'm really lucky. These 2 big nasties are not going to activate this turn. I actually have a chance of getting out of dodge. Little nasties activate from the closest to the first target to the furthest to the first target. So that bug runs onto the bridge, moves 2 onto the bridge, and attacks me. At this point, I basically am going to try to blow it away. So I'm going to play my pistol for a combat of 6, and I'm going to play my fists for a combat of 3. That is a total combat of 9 versus its combat of 2 plus 2 is 4. I have blown this away. It now goes on the bottom of the ship deck. So another bug could come back, but I've dealt with that bug there. This spider bug then moves 2 towards the first target, goes 1 there, cannot cross this line because that requires a move 2 to move across it. So it's only got that far. And I am now back to a point where I can play cards. I now have to play these icons in order to power up the bridge and escape. And I'm only allowed to play 1 icon at a time unless I have a specific card that allows me to do otherwise. If I was in the cargo shuttle right now, I could have played this card to get into the cargo shuttle and power up one icon. I am, however, not in the cargo shuttle. I am on the bridge. And I therefore only play this for its unlock action to activate that. I have 2 cards left in my hand. If you've been paying attention, you might say right now, Mike, you can play a follow-up action in order to do the other action and get off. But no, I can't, because first of all, the rule specifically states that I am only allowed to power up 1 control chair per turn unless I've got a special card that allows me to do otherwise. And I've done my card for the turn. The other reason is one of the 2 cards in my hand is my MacGuffin, which is a hand clogger, and I am not allowed to discard this card to do anything else. It must stay in my hand. So my turn ends, a card flips. This basically turns up in cargo control, which doesn't really matter. If this is a pickup action, then I get out alive. If not, these things are basically going to be coming for me. It's a pickup action. I get away. But for the sake of this tutorial, let's say that wasn't a pickup action. Let's say it was an unlock action. This means that before I get away, these nasties are going to end up on this ship. At this point, the bridge is taken off and I am in what's known as the Final Showdown. Right now, I can play an unlock action to try and flush those nasties out of the airlock before I do the final climactic fight. I basically shuffle these cards, I flip a card for each one of those nasties. If it is a 1 to 3, then they are flushed. If it is a 4 or a 0, they are not flushed. The monster bug flushes out the airlock. The trophy hunter does not flush out of the airlock. At this point, I am in the Final Showdown. If I have any cards left in my hand, I can play any card I like to give me +1 combat, regardless of whether it's got a combat symbol on it or not. And if it's got a combat symbol on it, I can play it for its combat. So, for instance, the fight or flight fist card would give me 3 for the fist, +1 for a combat in this Final Showdown only. I have to defeat the monster and push it out the back of the ship, otherwise I lose. That's it. That's how you play Panic Stations, the Pandora Celeste card game. If you've ever played Pandora Celeste before, you will recognise that it gives you the feel of the game, but in a much more pared down form. You don't get 17 agendas, you only get 6. You don't get any emergency protocols that you have to shut down before the ship kills you or worse. And you're only playing in the front of the ship, so you don't get to experience the delights of the back of the ship and the cargo base. You also only get 4 core characters, though you can, of course, buy any crew add-ons and add them into the game to give you a bit more variety. If you'd like to buy a copy of the game, you can either get it online at our Gun Tower Games store or come and find us at any major UK convention. Price £20. Until then, keep out of those dark corners.